Warning. The following video contains strong language that some viewers may find offensive or disturbing.
What's a red flag when looking for a job? I had a team lead interview me for a contract once say bluntly, "You don't want to work here, it's horrible." He was right and still undersold the experience somehow. I turned down a second interview for a position in which the interviewer said something to the effect of, "If your boss emails you on a Friday night, you don't have to respond. But you know how that looks." Made it pretty clear that they expect work to be your first priority. Places who always say they're hiring and always taking applications but you never actually see anyone new being trained or anything. It means people are quitting constantly and management isn't hiring new people. So they are critically understaffed on top of poorly managed. Hiring lots of people on the same position. Everyone who calls gets a job. Often means the job is either bullshit or they're setting you all up to compete for the actual job. I had this once. Turned out it was commission only. Door-to-door vacuum sales. I did that for a month. My breaking point was when I was told I couldn't carry any water with me in what is essentially desert climate in middle of summer. Was told to request a glass of water from random strangers. Same if I needed to use the bathroom. I wound up so parched I was risking real dehydration and the other salespeople had the nerve to drink all my water. Oh, and I sold a grand total of 3 vacuums. I actually has 5 sales. But I quit on a Friday and by Monday they claimed my last 2 sales were cancelled and I now owe them something like $150 for accessories. Convinced them to zero out my entire account and just close it. ETA, since I have a lot of replies asking which vacuum. It was Kirby. Initially unpaid, but will result in full-time offer upon completion of XYZ. This will be an excellent chance to expand your portfolio and gain lots of exposure with leading global brands. When they shit-talk previous employees, they're going to do it to you. Same goes for them insulting current employees behind their back. I saw that during my orientation. 2 supervisors were loudly talking about how useless an employee was after they got off the phone with him. Even if it's true, the fact that they don't care who hears them is a sign of a toxic work environment. Typical behavior of managers who like to deflect blame for their own mistakes onto employees. Basically a symptom of a terrible boss. I used to be in housekeeping at my current job. And I was kind of shit at it. I fucked up in a lot of stupid ways. But my manager was always like, "I'm a manager. I should have made sure you were trained better than this." He's one of those guys who's of the mind that an employee's success hinges on the efficacy of management. It's so rare to find a good manager who is actively concerned about your success. I really am just genuinely shit at cleaning. Though, I felt pretty bad about letting him down. I'm on front desk now. Though, so we're all happy now. Making jokes about overtime and crunch time. Guaranteed it's going to be a nights and weekends are optional but not actually optional place. I went to an interview where the guy said, "We don't end the day until everyone is done." And sometimes that takes another hour on a busy day. Then my genius brain said, "Yay, I don't want to work constant overtime." What was I thinking, expecting to go home when my contract says I go home? In reality, maybe an hour overtime can easily turn into 2 hours overtime every day. Having to pretend this is normal is toxic AF. When I was a GM for Chipotle I would constantly work 12+ hour days, salary. And one busy weekend I worked 15 hours on Friday and 15 on Saturday, and on Sunday I decided to go to the gas station and eat my donuts in my car and just listen to the radio for like 10 extra minutes to just kind of unwind. You better believe the area manager was there the next day with a write-up in hand because I was 10 minutes late on Sunday. But when I asked what about the other 10 extra hours I put into my store the previous days, that's just part of the job description. When they say you could be earning 6 figures in less than a year. When the posting lists the salary range as $50. $300. That means it's an all-commission sales job. Always ask them why the person you are replacing left the job. The way they answer this could be a red flag. I took a security guard job in college as a part-time gig. In the interview, the owner said the guy the first was replacing was just lazy. On my first day, I asked one of my coworkers and it turns out he was shot in the face while on duty. Too lazy to drive himself to the hospital, I guess? This was a red flag I had during an interview process once. I was doing a phone interview for an IT position and the person I was interviewing with basically changed the details of the job during the interview. Instead of the first shift hours the position promised, he immediately went into saying it would be 6+ months before the opportunity for first shift would even be a possibility. Also, he was big into asking how dedicated I was to jobs. The idea of weekend shifts, again, not in the original description, kept coming up, and how everyone had to be a team player and help out on weekends when needed. The kicker was when he started talking about how many hours he worked. He was bragging that he was up at 6 a.m. every day working. Then he'd go into the office for the day, come home to see his family for dinner, and get right back to work until 10 to 11 p.m. every night. I had never been turned off from a job faster in my life. He asked me to think things over and he'd send me some paperwork via email. Needless to say, I called him the next morning and declined the job. It was the worst interview process I'd ever been in. I'm in IT as well. Some of the interviews I had before landing my current job were very similar. Had one interview where the manager belittled one of the techs just before he walked into the room. Probably didn't realize the door was open, lol. I'm really lucky though, since my current position is awesome. I work with some really friendly people. It's a small company and that's what I prefer. I got a call from a Subway I applied to telling me my interview was in 10 minutes. That was the first I heard from them after submitting my application. So, years ago, my old company was hiring a mechanical engineer job. But the director of the department suddenly had a family emergency and had to go out of town the next day. They called the last applicant and said, "Can you come in and interview?" Like now, the candidate explained that he was out and about, and couldn't get dressed or anything. The director basically said, "Don't care." That's how the dude that got the job got to interview in a black band t-shirt and ripped jeans. So, before you red flag it, make sure that a sudden interview isn't warranted. If you ask them what the pay is and they start off with what you could be making after so much time and they start rambling about the raise process, run the other way. During my last interview for an entry-level semi-skilled press operator position, the HR guy says my pay will be like this. If you hit your rate every day, factor in your attendance bonus. Then if you go over rate, we'll pay you piece rate. They don't. I checked. And if the packing line gets your orders out on time and your quality is high enough and we don't get docked with any fees, a process over which I'll have no control after I wrap my pallet, you'll be making $15.20 per hour. Or more if you sign up for Saturdays. But that's not what I asked. I asked what my base pay was going to be, to which he replied, $10.61 per hour. No thank you. I've never heard such a complete pile of runaround bullshit. Looking for rock stars in the job description. Unless of course the posting is in fact for a position to be a rock star. Similarly, ads that read along the lines of, "Do you like sports? Come be a part of our team. We're laid back and have fun. We want all of our MVPs to succeed. So we work hard. And we play hard too." If they're trying to sell you on the work environment in the ad, most of the time, you should run. I'm sure there are exceptions. But most of the time, you can substitute rock stars and sports and MVPs in all these ads interchangeably. With all of it loosely translating to, "We're gonna load a bunch of you up in a van at the butt crack of dawn to drop in neighborhoods for door-to-door cold calls selling cutlery." Earning potential is stressed over current salary. I applied to a place where they were offering me 30% less than what I was currently making. They said, "That's because you'll be making that up in your performance bonus plus more." Hard pass from me on that one. Such a slap in the face of an offer. My last place tried to do that to a new hire on my team. Offered her 2K less and bonus would take her 2K above her current salary. Almost screwed a full month of interviews for 2K. Manager who doesn't really interview you or who doesn't take the interview seriously. They are on their phone the whole time. Don't ask any questions. Are too casual. Edited. Too casual doesn't mean creating a relaxed environment or rapport with interview candidate. Too casual, in my experience, was the guy, director of marketing, wear jeans with a hole near the crotch and sitting with his legs open. On his phone the whole time. Spitting chew into a can on his desk. Or the guys who have interviewed me and littered the interview with F-bombs and other vulgarities. Or talked shit about our known common acquaintances. Things like that. When they do this most of the time, it means they will hiring anyone showing up to the interview. If it feels like you have the job before your interview. I once applied to a trainee position. I got to the interview and it felt like I had already got the position and the meeting was just for details. It was weird. He looked at my docs more as a formality, but apart from the excessive praise. I was never actually asked anything. I was told I would do a week trial with only travel expenses paid. During that week there was no training or anything. I heard some not nice things, also some illegal things, whilst there. The boss was making plans to go out of the country for an extended period within 2 months and I'd be taking over for him, as well as expected to bring in clients too. Also, I wasn't deemed to be working fast enough and therefore they wanted to pay me less than £4 an hour. I didn't go back. An employer who treats you like they are doing you a favor. With good servant leadership it should be the other way around. An unclear job description, or a job description that includes too many duties. Not being offered the opportunity to see the working areas or talk to people who would be your peers. Just generally trying to feel out whether or not they have things under control or not. I don't want to walk into a shit show. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and hit the notification button. See you next time.